Good afternoon, everyone. How are you doing?
I'm very well.
Good. Yeah, I'm good.
Good.
Oh, we've got a hello from Barbara. Hi, Barbara. How are you doing? Nice to see some familiar names in the audience. Hello. We'll just give a few seconds more to see if we have any other people joining us. Whilst we're waiting, let me point out to you that there is the chat. Oh, and Ian, hello. Nice to hear from you, T. And Tina, hi. There is a chat facility. And Debbie's realised you can raise a hand. That's great. I think you're all experts at this webinar stuff now. You all know where everything is. Hi, Georgia. How are you doing? Yeah, there's a chat box. For those of you that haven't been on the webinars before, there's a chat box down below. So if you've got any questions at all, just pop them in there, and I'm going to be keeping an eye on the chat and on the Q&A. There's also a Q&A box. I don't think it matters which one you want to use. In fact, there you go. Anya, hello. You've put one in the Q&A. Hello. Okie doke. All right. I think we'll get started then. Right. I'm really delighted to be able to introduce Rhi, who is going to be delivering this webinar today on developments in semi-permanent makeup. So for those of you that don't know me and Rhi, I'm the clinical director at Lynton, and I've been here, I don't know, 20 years or something like that nearly. And Rhi, you've been here 10 years. That makes me feel really old.
Yeah, I can't believe that. I've been with Lynton for 10 years. That's crazy.
No, time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, definitely. And who'd have thought 10 years ago I'd be delivering a webinar?
I know. I can remember saying to you about training, in your face, you were absolutely the thought of it. So when Rhi started with us, she worked in the clinic, in the Lynton clinic. So she joined us as a clinician primarily, and then after a couple of years, I managed to convince her that she'd be good at training, and slowly but surely, she started doing bits of training, and she got to the point where she loved it so much that she moved into it permanently. So now she's a full-time trainer. She teaches on our qualifications, does lots of documentation, is involved in clinical trials and all sorts of things. And I think, oh, Tina, thank you. Rhi is a fab trainer. There you go, here. And today she's going to talk about something which is perhaps a little bit niche, but it's definitely something that's really becoming more and more popular. And it's one of those treatments that sometimes you can just like that, you can treat them, and sometimes they're an absolute nightmare. So I think it's well worth talking about the difficulties that we faced doing that as well, which I'm sure you'll raise, Rhi, and share some of the issues that other people have run into, and just really an overview of what you can treat and what you can't treat as well. When we first, for those of you that don't know about Lynton, when we started in 1994, it was Q-switched tattoo removal lasers that we were dealing with then. So we were one of the first companies in the world to take one of these systems to market as a tattoo removal system. And even by the time I started at the sort of, start of the century, it was, we were selling these into clinics and hospitals, really, big private hospitals predominantly. Then perhaps, Rhi, I guess by the time you started, we were selling more and more of these to tattooists, so into tattoo studios who were doing cover-ups. And the semi-permanent thing, you might occasionally get a few, but it was pretty rare back then, wasn't it?
I mean, to be totally honest, when I first started working at the Lynton clinic, it was something that we avoided treating. We didn't want to treat semi-permanent makeup because it was so new. We didn't fully understand it. Obviously, that's something that I will talk a little bit about today. But yeah, we actually completely avoided treating it. We didn't want to treat it.
It was just so unpredictable. I mean, it's still unpredictable, but in those days it was, even
I
worse.
think it's a lot easier to understand it now. There's certain areas of semi-permanent makeup that we are a case of you can treat it and actually you can get fantastic results, but then there's other semi-permanent makeup treatments that were actually like nah, stay away. And obviously some new developments in semi-permanent makeup that I'm going to talk about, which not a lot of people know about. So I'm hoping, everyone today will learn something from it, and be more aware when you're doing sort of normal laser and IPL treatments as well.
That's right, because it's not only an issue if someone's coming in because they want these things removed. They might be coming in for a different treatment altogether, a skin rejuvenation treatment, a hair removal treatment or something. And yeah. Okay. All right then. Well, without any further ado, I'm going to turn my video off so you don't have to look at my mug whilst we're talking. But I will keep an eye on the chat and the Q&A, and I might butt in here and there. So.
That's absolutely fine.
Okay.
Is it set recording, Sam?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. So, hello everyone. Like Sam said, my name's Rhiannon and I'm one of the trainers at Lynton, and I'm going to talk to you today about semi-permanent makeup. So looking at when we can treat it, when to avoid treating. If you just bear with me, my screen decided to fall asleep on me there. So we're looking, I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about what semi-permanent makeup is, the sort of different treatments that clients may have for semi-permanent makeup. We're then going to talk about the actual tattoo removal process and removing semi-permanent makeup before we then look at the actual development, so some newer treatments that have come out in recent years, which, you know, I've seen quite a few clients have, I've heard of people having, and just something that, you know, we feel you really need to be aware of as practitioners moving forward. And then obviously, like Sam said, she will keep an eye on the general chat and any questions, but I have just left a little bit of space at the end for a Q&A section. So if you do have any questions, please just fire them in the chat box or in the question and answer section, and we can either sort of, Sam will let me know any questions going through, or like I say, we've got a question and answer section at the end as well. So starting off, looking at what semi-permanent makeup is. So it's also known as micropigmentation or cosmetic tattooing. And essentially, it's a cosmetic procedure which allows, it's for both men and women, but it's predominantly used to enhance the shape of the eyebrows, hairline, eyeliner, and basically it's a lot like tattooing in that pigment or ink is injected into the skin, into the dermal layer, and then it gets trapped. So generally speaking, with semi-permanent makeup, it is a tattoo, it's a form of tattoo, but the idea being it's semi-permanent, and it generally does break down over time, and it's a temporary type of tattooing. So like I say, it does gradually break down, but that heavily depends on the age of the client, the skin type, skincare as well. So we know that some products and some acids and exfoliation type products can certainly help speed up the process of semi-permanent makeup breaking down. So that's something that a lot of semi-permanent makeup artists will make their clients aware of, you know, being careful of using certain products on that semi-permanent makeup, because it can actually affect how long that tattoo lasts. But when we're looking at semi-permanent makeup, I'm just going to start by telling you and showing you some photographs of the most popular semi-permanent makeup and cosmetic tattooing treatments that a lot of clients have. So the first one being brows. So brow micropigmentation treatments, they're designed generally to restore and enhance and give the illusion of full, perfectly shaped eyebrows. So it's something that a lot of women absolutely love, the fact that once they've had their eyebrows either tattooed or microbladed, it means that they don't have to worry about waking up and putting a full face of makeup on. You know, they have got their brows already done when they wake up in the morning. So that's something that, from a personal experience, I absolutely love the fact that, you know, my eyebrows have been tattooed, and it just means that when I get up in the morning or I'm going to the gym, I don't have to worry about putting my eyebrows on. You know, they're already there, they're already done, so my face almost looks done already without me having to do anything. So it makes life a lot easier, and that's what a lot of clients absolutely love about having their eyebrows tattooed or microbladed. So by putting that pigment in, it can give the illusion of fuller brows. It's also great, something that we'll talk about shortly, for reconstruction of eyebrows. So clients who maybe have lost a little bit of hair on the brows, they've maybe got a few patches, or they suffer with alopecia where the hair's actually fallen out, or clients with chemotherapy. You know, micropigmentation and cosmetic tattooing helps massively for those sort of clients, and really helps give them the confidence to be going out and not having to wear makeup, and not having to worry about, is my eyebrow in place? That was something that always used to frighten the life out of me if it was raining and, you know, I got my face wet a little bit and then my eyebrows slipping down my face. You know, it's not the best look with makeup. So semi-permanent makeup really helps not having to worry about that. So like I say, brows is probably, I'd say, one of the most popular treatments when it comes to cosmetic tattooing. The next one that we don't see as much of, but it's eyeliner. So having your eyeliner tattooed can obviously help with defining the eyes, but again, it's all about creating that illusion. So like with eyebrows, it will give the illusion of fuller, thicker brows. The same can be said for eyeliner. So it can create the illusion of fuller, thicker eyelashes. So again, for clients who maybe just generally don't have a lot of eyelashes, you know, they might have suffered alopecia, where they don't have any eyelashes anymore. Having their eyeliner tattooed is a fantastic one to be treating, and have their eyeliner tattooed again makes life a lot easier for them and gives them that confidence to go out and socialize with people, not having to worry about their eyelashes. Another one that, again, isn't as popular as brows. I think brows is the most popular type of semi-permanent makeup, but one is lips. So I think this was more popular probably about 10, 20 years ago maybe. I don't see it as popular anymore. I don't see as many people having their lips tattooed. But having the cosmetic tattooing around the lips, you can either have it as lip liner or actual lip blush. So it's absolutely brilliant for filling in gaps. It creates more definition. If the natural pigment and natural sort of lip line has disappeared, unfortunately, again, having the lip liner cosmetically tattooed can really help create the look of fuller lips, maybe without having to go down the injectable route. So again, it's that sort of, it appears more natural, but it creates the illusion of fuller lips with a more defined lip line. So again, I see it a lot in more older clients. They tend to love with the lip line because it creates that illusion of having their lips again. Because obviously as we age, unfortunately, collagen can decrease, but then obviously things start heading south and that can affect the lip contours as well. So having that cosmetic lip liner tattooed, it really helps create that illusion of fuller lips. So for a lot of clients, it can be life-changing for them. So like I say, they're the three main cosmetic types of semi-permanent makeup that we tend to see. So with eyebrows, creating that illusion of fuller, thicker brows, same with eyeliner and lip liner. So it really can be life-changing. Obviously, you can see some of the examples of photographs from a very good friend of mine, Claire Hobson. She's a fantastic semi-permanent makeup artist, and she teaches a lot as well. She's been in the industry for a very long time. So if anybody did want to have a look, she's created some fantastic work as well as some of the others that we're going to look at. So moving on from sort of the cosmetic tattooing with your brows, eyeliner and lips, there is also more medical tattooing. So for a number of clients, for various reasons, going through various treatments, medical tattooing again can be life-changing for them. So the first one being reconstruction of the areola. So this is more so when clients have maybe gone through a mastectomy, gone through cancer treatment, you know, various treatments like that, gender reassignment procedures, where they can sometimes lose the nipple, or the actual colour of the nipple can disappear. So with semi-permanent makeup, this is also a phenomenal treatment for a lot of clients, and again, life-changing, because it will create the illusion of a nipple. And what I see a lot of within the medical tattooing arena is they can create these 3D nipples. So actually, to look at, it looks exactly the same. And like I say, if you've got a client who's just had a single mastectomy, and what the semi-permanent makeup artist can do is actually match the opposite nipple to the new tattooed one. So for anyone looking, if they did, you cannot tell the difference. So again, for clients, again, who've gone through mastectomy, gone through various cancer treatments and various medical treatments and surgeries, it can be amazing for them to really get their confidence back. So that's also another type of tattooing that we see every now and again. Another one, I touched on this earlier, is eyebrow reconstruction. So again, for both male and female clients who have suffered or suffer with alopecia, or have gone through chemotherapy and unfortunately they've lost their hair following that treatment. And again, semi-permanent makeup, your cosmetic tattooing, this micropigmentation is fantastic for, again, creating new brows or filling in the gaps where hair has been lost. So absolutely phenomenal results here. You can see from a lady called Becky, she works quite a lot with alopecia clients, and again, they get their face back, so they get the contours back, and you can see the definition back within their face. So again, you can completely recreate brows when we're looking at brow reconstruction. Obviously, with alopecia, it doesn't just happen on the eyebrows or the eyelids, it can happen anywhere. And one that we haven't seen that much of in clinic, but something that we are seeing more of is actually both male and female clients who suffer with alopecia on the head. Micropigmentation can be used to, again, create the appearance of real hair follicles. So I've seen, again, some fantastic results. You can see on those before and after photographs where micropigmentation is used to either fill in gaps, or if you've got a client with thinning hair, micropigmentation can be used a lot like with eyebrows, where it can just sort of fill in those gaps and create the appearance of thicker, lusher hair. What we see sometimes as well is more so on male clients where they may be losing their hair, so they may be going bald in certain areas, but then rather than sort of holding on to the hair, scalp micropigmentation can again create the illusion of hair follicles, and it just looks like they've chosen to shave their head, rather than making it as noticeable that they are losing hair. So that's something that we see. So where you will get some clients going down the route of hair transplant, you can also use micropigmentation, which, done correctly, you can see looks phenomenal. Not quite as intense as your hair transplant surgeries, so not quite as intense. I'm thinking probably not quite as expensive, so might be a fantastic option for some clients when it comes to losing hair, unfortunately. Another one, again, I don't tend to see a lot of, but can work fantastic. So clients who suffer with vitiligo. So vitiligo is a condition where the skin actually loses pigmentation. So clients can be left with that sort of white patch on the skin. It can be following scarring, or it can just be that general condition where the skin just loses pigmentation. And for certain semi-permanent makeup artists and cosmetic tattooists, they can actually match the pigment to the skin colour of the client and the surrounding skin to, again, fill in those gaps and create that even skin tone. So again, something that can be used. It's not as common, but definitely something that can improve clients' life and confidence when it comes to their skin. You know, I know a lot of clients who suffer with vitiligo, my dad being one of them, unfortunately, bless him, and they can be quite conscious about the white patches. Sometimes it's not that noticeable, but others it can be quite noticeable. And it's nice to know that there are some treatments that can help. So using micropigmentation and cosmetic tattooing can actually help fill in those gaps when it comes to vitiligo, so those white patches and scar tissue, and covering those up and making the skin look a lot more even. Another one that I find fascinating and absolutely amazing is the correction of cleft lip. So cleft lip is something that happens in birth when the facial plates don't fuse together quite correctly, and clients can be left with scarring following surgery when they're children. And sometimes you can get it where the scarring following cleft lip surgery is quite noticeable. And I know I've spoke to a few clients who have had cleft lip surgery and have got the scarring from it, and they can be quite conscious about it because they get a lot of funny looks. But something that, like I say, I find absolutely amazing, and something I don't think a lot of people know of can be done. You can actually use micropigmentation to help improve the appearance of the scarring left from cleft lip surgery, and it can actually recreate the cupid's bow and achieve that symmetrical shape on the lips. So again, giving the client the confidence to be socializing and not as conscious about the way that they look. So again, another fantastic option for micropigmentation, and again, something that I didn't fully understand could be done or could be done well. Now, I do laugh at these photographs with eyebrows. Obviously, with semi-permanent makeup, tattooing in general, certainly with cosmetic makeup, we are seeing a huge increase in practitioners, salons and clinics offering these sorts of treatments. And while you can get some absolutely fantastic results when it comes to cosmetic tattooing, if you get the right practitioner, you know, it's not for everybody, and it certainly is an art. As we're seeing a lot more practitioners offering these treatments, often following sort of 1, maybe 2-day courses when they've got no prior experience when it comes to applying makeup, you know, they've got no artist background, it then means that we are seeing a massive increase in the amount of people actually wanting these tattoos removed and the cosmetic tattooing removed. And like we were saying at the beginning of this presentation, it was something that in the Lynton clinic, when I first started, certainly for the first couple of years, it was something that we didn't want to touch. We didn't want to touch semi-permanent makeup because we didn't understand enough about it. Obviously, when we're looking at eyebrows, for instance, sometimes you'll get clients where they've actually got hair already, and they've just had that semi-permanent makeup applied between the hairs to give the appearance of fuller brows. But then we were thinking, well, when it comes to removing, is the laser going to affect hair growth? Are we going to have to completely shave the hair off before we treat it? You know, it's not just standard colours like you see in a professional body tattoo, where you've got colours of, you know, black, red, green, you know, those sort of primary colours that can be quite easy to remove in some cases. You know, semi-permanent makeup, you're looking at treating more browns and sort of warmer colours. So we were thinking, how's this going to work? Are they going to see colour changes, colour shifts? You know, what do we use? We didn't fully understand it. So like I say, initially, we actually didn't want to treat it, and we didn't for a very long time. And I remember the day in clinic that we treated our first semi-permanent makeup lady. And it was a lady who she'd had her eyebrows done. And for some unknown reason, she was a redhead, so beautiful red hair, you know, freckles, and you know, beautiful colouring. And when she'd had her eyebrows tattooed, they'd actually been done purple. So it was one of those where we were thinking, like she came into us absolutely heartbroken, and we thought, we can't let her go having not tried something. And she begged. I don't know whether Kirsty's on this webinar, but I remember this lady crying her eyes out, just begging us to try something. And that was the first client that we ever treated for eyebrows. And actually, when we started treating her, it responded beautifully. So it ended up that we could get rid of that semi-permanent makeup for her, so she didn't have to keep covering them up, covering up these purple eyebrows. And ever since then, it was something that we were looking at. It was just like, you know what, this is something that we could treat. But obviously there's certain things that we need to be aware of when it comes to tattoo removal, certainly when it comes to semi-permanent makeup, because there's certain factors that will really affect the outcome and really affect the removal process. So obviously when we're looking at the tattoo removal process, it's a lot like treating any other tattoo. So a professional body tattoo, it's the same kind of principles that we apply. So with tattoo removal, we require something that's called the photomechanical effect. So this is something that we must use Q-switch lasers for tattoo removal to create this photomechanical effect. And in essence, when we're comparing a Q-switch laser compared to, let's say, a long pulse laser or IPL that we would use for hair removal, we actually deliver the light over nanoseconds rather than milliseconds with hair removal. So we deliver the light 1,000,000 times quicker into the skin. And what happens is we create this photomechanical effect, which in a nutshell, this is how I sort of explain it to clients and when I've got my trainer head on. As we pass that light over the skin and the light enters into the ink particles, it heats up the particles to high temperatures, but super, super quick. And I imagine it's a little bit like a hammer. So as the pigment is heating up rapidly, we get this audible shockwave, so you can hear a clicking. And it's that shockwave that goes through the tattoo pigment that actually shatters the pigment into smaller pieces. So like I say, I sort of imagine it a little bit like a hammer. And it's that breaks the ink particles down into smaller, more bite-sized pieces so the body can fade it and get rid of those bits of pigment. So like I say, when we're looking at tattoo removal, we must use Q-switch lasers. So like I said, with Q-switch lasers, it's delivering and creating that photomechanical effect within the skin. So we cannot use lasers that we would normally use for hair removal or skin rejuvenation. Like I say, when we have a tattoo and the tattoo is essentially injected into the ink, the body actually sees the tattoo and the ink as something foreign that it doesn't like, and it wants to break it down. So as the tattoo and the ink is being injected, the body can't break it down because the ink particles are too big. So what it does instead is it will trap those ink particles in collagen. So it'll encapsulate those ink particles in collagen within the skin, within the dermal layers of the skin. And that will prevent that foreign body, that foreign substance, moving around and causing damage, because that's how our bodies see it. Like I say, we are using Q-switch lasers, which will create that photomechanical effect in the skin. And by delivering light over a nanosecond pulse, so delivering with a Q-switch laser, it causes the ink particles to heat up rapidly, causes that audible shockwave through the ink particles and through the tattoo, and it will cause the pigment to shatter into smaller pieces. So as the ink and as the tattoo is being broken down, it releases the ink particles into the body again, and the body's thinking, hang on a minute, I don't like that, I want to get rid of it. So the body will then send its white blood cells to the area, and it will eat away those pigments, those smaller fractured areas of ink pigmentation, and that's how we get the fade. So like I say, in a nutshell, for tattoo removal, we're using Q-switch lasers to break those ink particles down into smaller, more bite-sized pieces. So this is something that we do with standard tattoo removal when we're treating body areas for tattoo removal, but it's also something that we use when treating cosmetic makeup, so semi-permanent makeup. Now obviously, as we are breaking those ink particles down, it does need more than one treatment. So it's very rare that clients are going to need anything less than 4 treatments when we're looking at tattoo removal. They do need a course of treatments, and hopefully with each treatment the tattoo will fade, hopefully to a point where there is no visible ink left. Now, when we're looking at removing cosmetic makeup, like I said earlier, brows is the main sort of semi-permanent makeup that we do treat in Lynton Clinic. And we commonly use the MD YAG at 1064 nanometers. So when we're looking at this sort of wavelength, it's a longer wavelength, so it's able to penetrate deeper into the skin. It's less absorbed by melanin, so it means that it is a safer colour of light to use, but it's fantastically absorbed by darker pigments, which is typically what we tend to see when we're looking at treating brows. Now, like I said earlier, when we first started treating eyebrows, we were thinking, you know, do we need to remove hair because that's going to form a barrier between the laser and the skin. But we've actually found that you don't need to remove hair, so you don't need to shave your client's eyebrows off when it comes to treating eyebrows with cosmetic makeup. But what we can see is a temporarily lightening of the hair. So with this lady that you can see on the left hand side after 3 treatments, where you can just see an area circled, we only treated that circled area for her, because actually when she came in, she had fantastic brows to start off with. They were phenomenal, they were beautiful, and she'd had a semi-permanent makeup done, but she just felt that they were a little bit too dark. So we just treated that centre portion, so that circled area, and we used the MD YAG at 1064, and obviously in Q-switch mode, and you can see that after 3 treatments responded beautifully. So normally for cosmetic makeup and eyebrows, we're looking at typically between 6 to 8 treatments, because the thought is that it's semi-permanent. So the ink isn't quite as densely packed as a professional body tattoo. And typically, certainly on the face, the ink isn't injected quite as deep in the skin. So it tends to sit a little bit more superficially on the skin, which is where we don't tend to need quite as many treatments as a professional body tattoo. But like I say, you can sometimes see this temporarily lightening of the hair. So this is something that, again, I can speak from experience. And if anyone's got any questions about how the treatment feels, feel free to ask me, because I've been through it. I initially had my eyebrows tattooed, but then after probably about a year, 18 months, I didn't like the shape of one of them. Very fussy client over here, and I decided to get them removed and start again. And I found that obviously I have got a decent amount of hair on my eyebrows already, and it is quite dark, but I found that when we had treated using the Q-switch MD YAG at 1064, the hair on my brows did lighten a little bit, and it probably would have lasted for maybe about 4 to 6 weeks. What we tend to say is that you just need to wait for that next growth cycle to come through, and the hair usually comes back pigmented again. But I found that I didn't want to wait that long, because I thought me with light, sort of almost mousy brown eyebrows didn't look quite right when I weren't putting my makeup on. So once the skin had completely healed, I just put a little bit of eyebrow tint back on them for about 10-20 seconds, and they repigmented, and everything worked brilliantly. So that's something that can be offered or advised to clients if you are treating eyebrows for tattoo removal and they've had that semi-permanent makeup. And when the hair can lighten temporarily, they can either just leave it, so leave it a good 4 to 6 weeks, usually when you see them next time and the pigment's completely returned within the hair. Or what they can do is, once the skin's healed, just apply a little bit of eyebrow tint, and that can just repigment. Now you can see this lady on the right hand side, she had a little bit more treatment, so she had 7 treatments. And you can see that with her eyebrows, although they looked fantastic, they weren't quite in the right place. So it was almost like she had 2 eyebrows. So she had a natural brow, and then where they'd applied the tattoo a little bit higher, which for her didn't look quite right because she was constantly removing the hair. So with this lady, like I say, we again use the 1064 in Q switch mode, and 7 treatments later, absolutely fantastic results. And although you can see a little bit of ink, she was more than happy with them at this point. And obviously, like with all tattoo removal, the process does continue for months and months after the treatment. So if we were to see this lady now, they'd probably be completely gone at that point.
Hello. We've got a few questions. I wonder if now's a good time to talk about eyebrows.
Yeah.
So we've got one here from Charlotte, who has got a client whose eyebrows are just not budging.
Okay.
So she's tried. So the first thing we would always say, if you're lucky enough to have lots of different wavelengths, is to try them. She's tried 1064, she's tried 532, and she tried 694 nanometers.
Oh wow.
And they're just not going. So she's getting good whitening and good cracking. Charlotte, I don't know can you tell us how many treatments that she's had? And yeah, how long in between, and what fluents are you using? That would all help. I mean, generally, if you're getting good whitening and cracking, that's a great sign. You know, you wouldn't necessarily want to go any higher, would you?
No, definitely not. On eyebrows.
Say that again, Ree, sorry.
I don't think you need to go very high with eyebrows. I mean, like you say, so long as you're getting that cracking and the whitening of the ink, they're your endpoints, so you can't ask for much more than that.
I don't think we've had any in the clinic that haven't resolved. Have we? Brows? I mean, other areas, which we'll go on to, but...
I think there was one client who we were in the same sort of position we were struggling with. And they actually went temporarily darker for a few treatments and then lightened.
I wonder, Charlotte, that's a good point, actually. I wonder if you look, I don't know if you've taken photos, but if you look through the photos, can you see any darkening? Because sometimes you can get, Gina, you've just said it, just what I was about to say, sometimes you can get an oxidization. And if the ink oxidizes, then it can go darker. So, again, I think Ree's going to mention this, but there are quite a few different compounds that so, for example, reds, they can do that. If there's any red in it, you can get a transition from ferrous to ferric oxide. So you go from a reddy, browny, rusty sort of colour to black. So, and then once it's oxidised, it can be really tricky to treat. We're not saying you can never get rid of it, but it is more difficult to treat.
I think when we know with eyebrows, typically if it does sort of oxidise to that darker colour, for some reason with eyebrows, it does tend to fade better than other areas, which we're going to talk about.
Good, yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes you also see tattoos, eyebrow tattoos, that are not actually semi-permanent makeup, are they? They're just bog standard tattoo ink. Yeah.
So this actually, you've just jogged my memory on this one. I had, luckily it was one of my friends, and she went to her tattooist to do her eyebrows, because she just thought, oh yeah, she's a fantastic tattooist, so she can do my eyebrows. And when she came
it's a very different skill, isn't it?
Yeah. When she came in, I was just thinking, wow, they are dark, dense. And I said to her, look, you know, I don't see why we can't get rid of them, but you're probably going to need upwards of 12 treatments if it's a professional tattooist. So we did the test patch as we normally do. So they were black, and I did my test patch. Responded beautifully. I think she messaged me later on in the day, and I said, oh, how are they looking? And she said, well, they're red. And I said, what do you mean they're red? And basically what the tattooist had done, because obviously she didn't have brown, so in her head it was, right, I'll water down the black ink, add some red to warm it up, which isn't going to work. But because the black ink was so watered down, I just hit it once and it lifted all the black out. but then she was left with ruby red eyebrows. And that's when I was thinking, I'm not sure how this is going to respond. Like, is the red now going to transition to black again? Is she going to be stuck with that? But luckily, because it was a tattooist ink, and it was just sort of standard ink, if you would use on the body, responded beautifully and really quickly.
So 532, Rhi? Or
532?
532. Wow.
Yeah, it was strange, very, very strange with that one.
Gina's got a question here, which I think you might actually have a slide later on which will demonstrate, but she's saying if a lighter brown ink does oxidize to a darker color, does it always fade? So I think we've kind of mentioned that. She said she's only treated 2, they both got better over time.
Yeah.
If the ink goes darker, can you treat again?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it may not respond, but definitely give it a go.
Yeah, there is a possibility that it may not respond, but you could say that with any tattoo. Typically when we're looking at eyebrows, it hasn't happened that often that we've not been able to get fading. It can just take a little bit longer.
I don't know if you've got personal experience with this, Rhi, but I think when people have their brows tattooed regularly, as some people do, if you then start to get a build-up of fibrotic tissue there, that perhaps can make it a little bit more tricky.
It can. So this is something, I mean, obviously I don't do semi-permanent makeup, but obviously there's 2 types of semi-permanent makeup. You've got your tattooing and you've got microblading, and there's sort of, it's almost like 2 teams with microblading and tattooing. Now, like I say, I don't do the treatment, but from my research and my feelings and the various people that I've spoke to in the industry, microblading, if you have microblading done more often, which you do need to, so they recommend about once every 12 to 18 months, it can actually, there's actually a higher risk of forming more scar tissue and more scarring, which then means it's more difficult to get rid of the pigment, because the pigment's just trapped in so much more fibrotic tissue that it's really difficult to get it to fade. Whereas tattooing, not as much, but obviously it depends on practitioner, it depends on so many things.
I'm just wondering if we've got any semi-permanent makeup artists, you know, watching, because please, you know, tell us, share your experience with us.
Yeah, definitely.
Gina's asked a question about lip liner, which I won't go into now because you are going to cover it.
Yeah.
So yeah, Gina. But the answer is, it's the short answer is it's much more difficult, unfortunately. Okay, all right. Sorry, Rhi. I'll let you carry on.
So yeah, with eyebrows, it is something that we have been treating for quite a long time now, and is something that we do treat, and certainly for our customers, it's something that, you know, we advise go for it with treating. Obviously, you just have to be careful if there is any hair in the area. Obviously, if you wanted to, you can shave the eyebrow off, but it's not necessary. We just try our best to move the hair out of the area. Also, because it's a delicate area, it really hurts. Just take it one shot at a time, and just work over that way. But you can get some fantastic results when it comes to eyebrow cosmetic makeup removal. Obviously, when we're looking at eyebrows, something that we have just talked about is the possibility of colour shift. So this example you can see on the right hand side, this was obviously an eyebrow tattoo which was brown in colour. So initially on that first treatment, photograph A, that was after 1 treatment with 1064. So ND Yaga 1064 in Q switch mode. And you can see that after only 1 session, that brown has been lifted. So the darker pigment's been lifted out, but it's left that sort of lovely greeny orangey colour. They then had a treatment with 532. So a shorter wavelength, which is green light, to target the sort of orangey colour, and that then left sort of a lovely yellowy green colour. So it was almost layer by layer. Now this is quite a complex treatment and scenario for the practitioner who treated. But then after they treated once with 532 to leave that green colour, it then took multiple sessions with a mixture of both 532 and 694, so KTP laser and ruby in Q switch mode, to get that significant reduction. So you can see the end result in photograph B eyebrow tattoo has pretty much completely gone. So hopefully this client, if she was having her eyebrows tattooed again, you know, she'd be good to go, really. Now, like I say, this case in particular is one of the more complex cases, and we'll be honest, it's not something that we've seen that much of, but it was something that we were cautious about when we first started treating semi-permanent makeup and eyebrows, because we were thinking, well, brown isn't a standard colour, you know, it can be a mixture of lots of different colours, so what are we going to uncover each time we treat with potentially various wavelengths? What is going to be unmasked? What is the laser going to show us on the next layer? So that's something that, you know, we've had to be careful of, and something that we were wary of initially. But like I say, I think the only case that I saw was my friend who her tattooist friend did her eyebrows, and it literally immediately after one session lifted all the black and left this lovely ruby red colour, which was a very interesting case for me. But we did continue to treat and it responded beautifully. Now, one area of cosmetic makeup that we advise isn't treated. Now, lip liner. The issue that we have with lip liner or lip blush treatments is a really common ingredient in lip liner pigments is titanium dioxide. And titanium dioxide is a type of metal that when it's oxidized down, it can go to this sort of white powder. And it's used in lip liners on lighter skin types, so typically like skin type 1 to 3, possibly a 4, because with titanium dioxide, it's brilliant for lightening the colour, and it provides a really good base, so it makes the colour look more solid, and it almost makes the colour pop off the skin, which is what you need for lighter skin types. And the issue that we have with titanium dioxide, which you can see in both of these photographs, is that often as soon as it's hit with a laser, it will reduce back to its original state, which is a lovely sort of blue-black colour. And often with titanium dioxide, once it's in the skin, it doesn't like to shift. It likes to stay there once it's in there. So the lady that you can see on the left-hand side, she had, so that first photograph you can see, she had one treatment with 532. So obviously with lip liner, it's those sort of reddy, pinky, and sort of more neutral tones when it comes to lip liner. And as soon as it was treated with 532, it reduced, the titanium dioxide reduced to its original state of that lovely sort of dark, almost black colour. And then she was treated with 1064. And it took 8 treatments with 1064, which doesn't sound too bad, because actually she has got some fantastic results and that darker pigment has completely gone. However, in my head, I'm thinking she was stuck with black lip liner for a probably good 12 months, because if she's had 9 treatments in total and you're having to leave a minimum 6 weeks between treatments, possibly a little bit longer, she's been walking around with black lips. And that's something that through. This lady on the right hand side, this was one, I know the before photograph isn't the clearest, but her lip liner had faded in a very patchy way. So there was a sort of just at the top of one of the cupid's bow, there was a little bit of pigment left, but actually on the right hand side, they'd almost sort of tattooed outside of her lip line. And it was that she was more conscious with. Now this lady, we probably started treating about 4 years ago, and she was made aware initially that there is a very high risk of the pigment oxidizing, so going back to its original state of this sort of blue-black colour, and there is a chance that it wouldn't respond, because like we said, that's what titanium dioxide likes to do. It doesn't like to leave the skin very easily. And she, I know, has had quite a lot of treatment at 1064, and she's not seen much improvement at all. you know, it's something that even 4 years down the line, we're still trying to work out any treatment that we could offer to hopefully get rid of this pigment. So like I say, with lip liner, we know we've got a lot of customers who do tattoo removal and treat lip liner and get fantastic results, but as a company we actually advise not to. And it's certainly something that, from experience, I think I've only ever treated 3 lip liners in total, and I will never do it again, ever. It was something that scared the living daylights out of me, and I never want to put my client through that again. So yeah, like I say, it's something that Lynton don't advise. And like I say, it's because of this really common ingredient in lip liner pigment, which is titanium dioxide. So like I say, it's a naturally occurring metal, and in powdered form, it's often referred to as titanium white. But it's actually used a lot in sunscreen and food colouring. So when we're looking at food colouring, it gives that sort of depth and boldness to colour, but it's that titanium dioxide that can give a brighter base for the colour on lighter skin types, so it really makes the colour stand out. But like we say, the issue with titanium dioxide is that when it is hit with a laser or it does get too hot, it's that chemical reaction that occurs, and it causes it to shift back to its original state of blue-black, which then can be extremely difficult to get rid of. So not only do Lynton not advise that lip liner is treated for tattoo removal, it's also something that with all other treatments like hair removal, skin rejuvenation, anything like that with regards to tattoos, we advise that you must leave a 1 centimetre gap away from any tattoo, but definitely around lip liner. So it's something that we do ask all clients when we're treating around the area: have you ever had semi-permanent makeup in that area? Have you ever had your lip liner done? Because even though it'll look like it's faded, there might be some titanium dioxide still there, which isn't quite majorly visible to the naked eye, but it could certainly still be there. And if we accidentally got too close to it, there's a good chance that it'll turn black, and then your client is stuck with black lips, which I don't think is the best look at the moment personally. So like I say, something to be really aware of with titanium dioxide, so we advise stay well away from it. Now looking at eyeliner. So eyeliner, to be honest, is something that could be treated. However, with laser and IPL, we don't advise that any treatment is performed within the orbital bone. So any treatment outside of the orbital bone, but obviously within that orbital bone, laser or IPL cannot be used unless you have what's called intraocular shields. So intraocular shields are only for use by healthcare professionals, and they are essentially like metal contact lenses that are inserted into the eye, but it means that you are able to treat over the eyelid for things like lip liner, or we know our surgeon used to use it for rejuvenation with a laser called CO2. But when treating eyeliner, like I said, you need to have these special considerations in place, such as your intraocular shields. You know, it is only for healthcare professionals, because you need the chloramphenicol ointment and lidocaine drops. So it's an antibiotic ointment and anaesthetic drops to actually be used when the intraocular shields are used. Obviously with the intraocular shields as well, they must be thoroughly disinfected, and they need to be done properly. So like I say, it's something that we only advise healthcare professionals do for treatment. But you can see, I think this is the only eyeliner photograph that I've ever seen having been treated, and you can see after 5 treatments that lovely flick that she's got, or that she had in the before photograph, has completely gone. So although fantastic results, I don't think, even if I worked very closely with a healthcare professional, or I was a healthcare professional, I don't know whether I'd be that confident in actually performing that sort of treatment over someone's eyelid. I know from experience tattoo removal hurts like hell anyway. I don't know how comfortable I'd be having it over my eyelid. Obviously, we talked earlier about micropigmentation being used for or on the scalp, and sort of obviously to give the illusion of hair follicles and give the appearance of fuller, healthier hair. But every now and again, you do get it where clients may want this removed. So this gentleman in particular, although he was really happy with the overall result of his micropigmentation treatment on his head, he felt that the line was a little bit too blocky and it didn't look quite as natural as he'd planned and as he wanted it. So what was used, because the pigment is typically dark pigment, we treated it a lot like eyebrows and treating semi-permanent makeup on the eyebrows. So 1064 is often the wavelength of choice when it comes to removing scalp micropigmentation. And with this gentleman in particular, it was just sort of the first about centimetre of the hairline that was treated. And you can see after 2 sessions, it had faded down to a point that had given him that natural hairline. So he was over the moon with it. So it made him a lot more confident when it came to out and socialising. So although we didn't treat the whole scalp, it was just little sections, and that's also something that can be done and can work really well when it comes to removing micropigmentation on the scalp. So last little bit now, we've talked about the really common areas of cosmetic makeup, just touching now on the developments in semi-permanent makeup. So obviously we've got brows, eyeliner, lip liner, scalp micropigmentation and things like that. But there's 2 main developments in semi-permanent makeup that I have been researching for probably about the past 12 to 18 months. And one of them I know, and I've spoken to a few people, they are aware of it. I only know 1 or 2 clinics that do the treatment. And some people have never heard of it. So it's something that we as a company are trying to make people more aware about. And the first one is this BB Glow. So with BB Glow, essentially it's come over from sort of Singapore, Korea. It's really popular in those sort of areas. And essentially, in a nutshell, it's semi-permanent BB cream. So BB cream meaning that it's able to sort of almost cover blemishes. It's a blemish balm. And with BB Glow, it's essentially the same as microneedling, where the skin is needled using needle depths of between 0.5 to 1.5 needle depth on the face. But then rather than where microneedling and sort of mesotherapy, you're then applying serums to the skin, BB Glow is using foundation type pigments. So after the microneedling, they are applying makeup and pigment to the skin and making that foundation sort of sit a little bit deeper in the skin. And essentially it's sold to even out the skin tone. It will eliminate hyperpigmentation completely. It will cover rosacea, redness, and is there to hide flaws and minor defects. So for a lot of clients, they're thinking, great, I can have this treatment, doesn't take that long, doesn't seem to be painful, you know, they're not telling me any side effects, and it means that I can wake up having looked like I've got my makeup on and I've got this foundation. Now with BB Glow, that's how it's sold. And some of the before and after photographs, I'll admit, they look all right for a couple of treatments. And essentially with BB Glow, it's sold that you will see a result after 1 session, but you typically need a course of around 3 to 4 sessions, recommended once every 7 to 10 days. So once a client's had this, let's say the 4th treatment, and they've had a treatment once every 7 days, so they've had a month worth of treatments, it's saying that results potentially last 4 to 6 months. So with BB Glow and with this treatment, how it's actually sold is that the more treatments you have, the longer it's going to last. So with BB Glow, it's designed to continually flood the skin with pigment to essentially even out the skin tone. Now, like I say, some of the before and after photographs, you can see after a course of treatment, the skin looks a lot clearer. And yeah, Verity, I 100% agree with you. It scares the life out of me as well. Just notice that comment. So with BB Glow, like I say, it's meant to be temporary. But like we see with any tattoo and any tattooist, any sort of treatment, it is heavily practitioner dependent. And you could get a practitioner who hasn't had the proper thorough training. They haven't bought needles from a reputable supplier. They could be using longer needles, deeper needles. You have no idea what pigment is in the vials and is being injected into the skin. But essentially how I imagine it is it's foundation being tattooed into the skin, and long term that cannot be healthy. And actually looking at BB Glow in a little bit more depth, if we were comparing it to something like microneedling, which has been around since the 90s, the products and the serums that are used in microneedling are generally well tolerated because we've got a really low number of biodegradable ingredients. So generally the ingredients that are in those serums used alongside microneedling are generally safe and are very unlikely to cause any reactions. Whereas with the serums used in BB Glow, they've actually got upwards, like over 40 ingredients that are non-biodegradable. So they are designed to stay within the skin to give that lasting foundation effect. And one of the ingredients within BB Glow is titanium dioxide to give that sort of brighter appearance, and sort of any colour and pigment that's used will sit a lot brighter on the skin. And as we looked at earlier, once titanium dioxide is in the skin, it doesn't want to leave. So this is something that when we're looking at BB Glow, obviously you might not be aware of your client ever had it because it's not made or noticeable like a professional body tattoo. But with BB Glow, it's something that we need to be so careful of. So like I say, the treatment is designed to continuously flood the skin with this BB serum. And it's that poses a risk with the immune system. And the skin can react, which might not be immediately. It can take time. It might not be visible to the naked eye. It might take years to show up. But it can cause dermatitis in the skin. It can cause swelling, irritation, redness. You know, the ingredients that are used within BB Glow that don't degrade naturally, they're known allergens. And like I say, it could take years to show up. So like skin cancer can take years to show up, this can also. So there is a lot of risk when it comes to BB Glow. And another thing when it comes to BB Glow, because of the ingredients that are used and because it can cause this sort of allergic reaction within the skin and that build up of ingredients in the skin, it can lead to cell death, DNA damage, over stress to the skin cell, which then obviously causes these sort of irritations and allergic reactions. But one of the reactions which I found, I want to say interesting, was granulomas. So that's a type of scar tissue, and that's where the body is just trying to fence off foreign material so that it's not able to cause any further damage. So actually you can find that you can get quite a lot of scar tissue from BB Glow. But something that I've recently found, I think that the medical industry is becoming a little bit more aware of it, but not massively, that the oxides used within BB Glow aren't actually compatible with MRI scanners. So if your client had BB Glow treatment, you know, it's not FDA approved, it's not regulated. If they had BB Glow and then went for an MRI scan, there's a very high potential and risk for burns in scanners if the MRI scanner is used over the treated area. And this is something that could be quite common practice when it happens, because like I say, not many people even in the industry know about it, in our industry, so never mind the medical industry. And I think the issue is, when I've looked at a few papers with it, that because the medical industry don't know about it, they don't think to ask. And then because it was something that maybe the client had years ago, they don't believe it's there anymore, so they don't need to say anything. And they might forget that they'd ever had it. So obviously, just in general, it doesn't sound like a great idea. But something for IPL or laser practitioners to really consider and make sure that you're asking clients if they've ever had these sort of treatments. If you were to treat over an area with laser or IPL, let's say for something completely different like hair removal, skin rejuvenation, acne, vessels, anything like that, and these pigments are still there, that titanium dioxide is still in the skin because it doesn't want to leave, you could be putting your client at a really high risk of burns and scarring with laser and IPL. So it's certainly something to be really cautious of. And remember that just being aware of it, do not treat over BB glow. So with BB glow, we don't recommend that any treatment is being done over the area, purely because we don't understand enough about it. Certainly with laser or IPL, there's a high risk that that titanium dioxide can interact and change colour, so it'll go to that original lovely blue-black colour. I mean, potentially with other treatments like radio frequency, you know, it's causing heat in the skin, and there could be a risk that that could cause the oxidation of the titanium dioxide. You know, you've got risks of granulomas forming from BB glow. So actually, if we know that clients had BB glow, we wouldn't advise that any treatment is done over that area whatsoever. I mean, I'm sort of looking at it that if an MRI scan could interfere with it, I don't want to touch it. I wouldn't even want to cleanse my client's skin. I'd be that wary of it, because God forbid anything was to go wrong and you get this lovely sort of black patch on their skin. Not a good look, and definitely not something that I would want to be messing with. So generally, like I say, with your BB glow, just stay well away from it. Do not treat over it. Even if they say, oh, I had it done 10 years ago, I still don't want to go anywhere near it. Because like I say, titanium dioxide doesn't like to leave the skin once it's in there. So I would avoid like the plague. Another little development in semi-permanent makeup is faux freckles. So for a lot of our customers who may be on this webinar, we do a lot of skin rejuvenation treatments. So clients wanting to get rid of the freckles and wanting to get rid of the sun damage. I think this is something that, I'll be honest, I'm seeing more in America than anywhere else. But clients are now actually opting and wanting their freckles to be tattooed on the skin. So I've seen it with makeup artists that they will sort of draw freckles on temporarily, which is fine. But people are having freckles actually tattooed on. So with these photographs that you can see on the screen, they have actually been tattooed on. And I'll be honest, I love freckles, don't get me wrong. I don't really like the look of these tattooed freckles. But when we're looking at faux freckles, again, it's sold as semi-permanent makeup, so it's using the same sort of pigments that we'd use in any other cosmetic treatment and cosmetic tattooing, but it is heavily practitioner dependent. So you can get a technician or tattooist that can drive the ink a lot deeper, so it's not going to be that temporary and it's not going to be semi-permanent. I mean, potentially, if you're looking at a client who's had their freckles tattooed and then they want them removed, potentially, I don't see why not. Making sure that you're using a Q-switch laser. I think it'd just be difficult to almost tell whether you're treating ink or whether you're treating a freckle. But again, one thing that we need to be really aware of is if you're, a lot like if your client had ever had BB glow, and if they'd ever had faux freckles, but they're wanting a treatment completely different, such as skin rejuvenation, hair removal, something like that, and we were to treat over an area that had faux freckles, it could result, I mean, realistically, it's going to result in a burn, scarring, because essentially you're treating over a tattoo with a long pulsed system, which doesn't create the right effect. It doesn't create that photomechanical effect, and your client would actually be left with quite significant burns and scarring. So that's something that we would need to be really careful of. And again, just something to be aware of. You know, have you ever had semi-permanent makeup in the area? Those freckles that you've had treated, that you want treating, let's say, or freckles that are in the area, are they natural or were they applied onto the skin? So something that, you know, consider if we can be asking clients that when they're coming in for treatment. Just a last little recap now. So looking at what you can treat. So generally we do say that, you know, brows, scalp micropigmentation is certainly treatable. A lot like treating like a professional body tattoo. You know, they're gonna need a course of treatment. Possibly with eyebrows, you're looking at around 6 to 8 treatments. But something that we do just need to make clients aware of is that you can get a temporary lightening of the hair, which, you know, once that next lot of hair growth has come through, that next hair cycle has come through, the pigment should return. But, you know, just making clients aware we can get that colour shift, although it's rare, but brows is certainly something that we do treat in clinic. Same with scalp micropigmentation, so treat it a lot like eyebrows, although just making clients aware it may not be perfect, because as we know with lasers, they're not in perfect shapes, so they might need to get things touched up a lot like if you were treating parts of a professional body tattoo. And I've just put a question mark there next to faux freckles, because technically if your client wanted those semi-permanent freckles removed, I don't see why not. So I don't know whether you can feel any different to that one.
I'd give them a go.
I would.
Yeah, you just test patch, don't you? You test patch one of them and see how it goes.
Yeah, definitely. But things that we don't want you to be treating, obviously eyeliner, unless you're a healthcare professional. We don't advise the treatment of lip liner purely because that risk of permanent colour shift. Like I say, I know I keep going on about titanium dioxide, but it's really risky. And like I say, once it's in the skin, it doesn't like to leave. And just being careful using treatment of IPL or laser for treatments such as hair removal and skin rejuvenation over an area that's previously had BB glow or these faux freckles, because you are potentially putting your client at very high risk of burns and scarring. But from there, that's me done. I don't know whether we've had any other questions.
We've got a few. Thank you, Rhea. That was really interesting.
Good.
Right, we've got some questions. We've got one from Gina here and one from Tina about BB glow. So Gina said, how long after BB glow? I think you covered that. But
yeah, never.
Yeah, unfortunately, we just don't know enough about it, do we, to risk it? And Tina's got a good point. Can BB glow react with radio frequency as well?
I think possibly it could.
We certainly know, don't we, that with the microwave, with the Onda system, we can't treat over tattoos with that, and that's to do with the presence of metallic pigments in tattoos sometimes. So yeah,
The thing is, with BB glow, there's no regulations around it, so we don't actually know the ingredients in it. There could be all sorts in.
Yeah. So one type might be absolutely fine, and another type might not be.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, anything where you're heating up the skin, if there's metal in it, it's like if you were treating over, you know, a major metal like reconstruction plate, you wouldn't want to be treating over it and heating it up. So I think I'd feel the same with BB glow as well, just because, yeah, we don't know enough about it.
Just scrolling through the questions. We've got some in the Q&As here. So we've got one from Shabana. This is a really good question. Would the wavelengths be the same on all Fitzpatrick skin types? So
with 1064, ND-YAG at 1064 and Q-switch can be used on all skin types, so treating darker pigments, but we generally recommend that you check with your insurance if you're allowed to treat darker skin types. Obviously, the darker the skin type, although with ND-YAG it's got a low melanin absorption, it's still risky treating darker skin types purely because they're more at risk of pigmentation changes. So we would say that, you know, you can use 1064, although it's rare to see them with semi-permanent makeup and tattoos anyway. And just obviously checking with your insurance company. Whereas a shorter wavelength, so 532 and 694, we generally recommend to stick to your lighter skin type. So certainly skin types 1 to 3, 4.
The thing is, I guess when you're treating a tattoo, the amount of pigment that you've got is generally so much more than the amount of melanin that you have there, that you almost have to treat the tattoo ink and kind of almost forget about the skin type. But it's really worth, you just have to make sure that they know that the risk of hyperpigmentation is, you know, much higher, unfortunately. And then George has got a question: which area of the brow do you do your patch test on?
I say it depends on the client. If they're wanting their full brows, I tend to test right on the corner, so sort of on the tail end of the brow, just so it's not quite as obvious for them.
I think if you've got a colour shift, you'd rather it was there, wouldn't you?
Rather than right in the middle. So yeah, personally, I've always tested at the side, purely because as well, I think from a client's point of view and having the treatment done, I think when you've got obviously the goggles on and then you've got a laser pointed there, it can be more nerve-wracking, whereas if it's just at the side, it doesn't feel quite as unnerving and quite as terrifying and scary. So that's just from personal experience. So yeah, I tend to test at the side.
Brilliant. I think we may have answered all. Oh, hang about, I've got a few more messages. Tina, thank you. It's a lovely comment saying that you've learnt lots. Verity, you get clients with darker skin types 5 and 6 to sign extra disclaimers, and you also mentioned earlier, didn't you, that for treating semi-permanent makeup, you get them to sign to say that they understand the risks of colour change. I think that's really important. Right, okay, all right, I think we're all done. If you have any other questions, you can reach both Rhi and myself and all the other trainers on the clinical@lynton.co.uk email. So feel free to drop us a mail. All right, thanks very much, Rhi, that was great. See you soon. Bye.